let's preview the season for the Los Angeles Lakers. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and you've got to get up for the weekend. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms. We just did the Miami Heat preview earlier today, a team that didn't do a huge amount in the offseason. And I thought, let's find a team that did less than that. That's the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to talk Lakers right now. Why not? Let's get into it. So he's back again to talk about the Lakers. Andy Kamenetzky, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how doing, Josh?
I'm good. It's good here to talk about the Lakers. Now, some of these teams we talk about, and there's just a million things happening and a lot of questions, and how they're going to fit this guy in, what's the change going to be. And then this team, in terms of like what happened in the offseason, there was a extraordinarily weird head coach search, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like what else happened?
Excuse me. We drafted one Bronny James. Also got what, all kidding aside, might be the steal of the draft. Some are anticipating Dalton Knecht from Tennessee falling all the way to 17, which was very, very unexpected. Most of the mocks that I saw had Dalton Knecht solidly as a lottery pick, some in the top 10, round top 5. To put it in perspective, when my brother Brian, who co-hosts Locked On Lakers with me, when he and I started reaching out to people to get scouting reports on different guys linked to the Lakers and various mocks, because we, full disclosure, don't follow the college scene that closely. We did not even bother looking into Dalton Knecht because every single mock had him getting drafted 10-ish spots away from the Lakers. So, and he looked very good in Summer League. So I think he could end up right away a rotation player, right away somebody who's contributing. So that is a strong pickup. But in terms of the offseason and moves around the league, the Lakers were definitely left out of that action.
They were. You could have looked at my mock draft, Andy, where I had connected like 21 to understand that, I don't think he's maybe as good as what those guys thought. We'll see which way ends up being correct, but like I did not have him in that lofty level that some did, but we'll find out.
So you feel like the Lakers reached for him at 17?
I think when I ended up doing my final mock draft, I think I had him like 21 on my board, and when I did my final thing, I think he was at 19. So like I think it was totally reasonable at that spot. I wasn't like getting RSI on my wrist from thinking about how good the pick was. I was like, this is reasonable. This is the spot. Like I'm think it's totally fine, but I don't think it's like, wow, I can't believe all these teams passing him. Because I went, I can totally believe that they passed on Dalton Knecht, because I just didn't have as high of an opinion on him. But let's talk about him, because in terms of the additions, it's him, it's Bronny, it's Arnell Traore and Blake Hinson on two ways. Like, that's it. That's all that's come in. And the only one of those guys who is going to be a rotation player, and again, me saying that I don't love him as a top 10 player is nothing bad. I think he is a solid enough rotation player who is going to play minutes this season. So Knecht in Summer League, I watched a couple of his games live. He had some real struggles with some of the shooting numbers, but the 34% from three is good. 36 overall is not. It's just a lot of the same stuff we saw at Tennessee. Good usage, but that team had nobody else, really. He defended probably a little bit better than I hoped. But in terms of people looking at Knecht for this upcoming season, there are people who are like, yeah, he'll just come in, he'll start, and he'll just catch wide open threes from LeBron. I feel like we hear that for one player, two players every single season. It doesn't actually happen that way, because that's just not how basketball works. So, like, what sort of role is there? Because theoretically, he replaces a RUHI Hachimura long-term, or a Jared Vanderbilt in that position. But those two guys still exist. So, like, is Knecht like a 15-minute a night guy? Like, where do you see his role?
Well, he's really replacing Taurean Prince because
That's true.
Taurean Prince was the only guy who was on the team last year, the entire year, who's not back this year. Spencer Dinwiddie was a buyout guy who ultimately ended up going to Dallas. I think the Lakers had some interest in him, but Dallas could offer him a much bigger role than the Lakers could in terms of all the guards they have on their roster. I don't think it's out of the question that Knecht could start, but I would be very surprised if he did. That being said, though, the percentages in Summer League, I understand what you're talking about, but they don't necessarily matter that much to me
don't.
because
They shouldn't either.
No, I mean you're playing with a bunch of guys who, your percentages are often affected by the quality of players that you're with, and most of his teammates are either going to be on the fringes of the Lakers roster or not on the Lakers roster at all, or maybe not even in the NBA at all. But in terms of what we saw from Knecht, there was a lot that I liked. He was very good, I thought, on and off the ball in terms of his ability to handle it, to drive to the basket. He's very athletic. Had a couple really strong dunks during Summer League. He's not somebody that I would let run the offense or even serve as a secondary playmaker, but he can make some good decisions with the ball. And I thought, some of his drive and kick moves were really nice. He also moves extremely well without the ball. Like I thought his anticipation of where to go, how to fill space, he kept moving at all times, which is something that I think could be very useful playing with guys like LeBron James, DAngelo Russell, who are very good at finding open teammates, but also too the way we've heard JJ Redick's offense. Obviously, we have not seen this yet, but it's been described a lot as featuring a lot of motion, and that's the kind of stuff that Redick wants. So as much as I think Knecht defensively has a lot of work and he's going to need to be covered and he will be targeted, and his anticipation defensively is not nearly as strong as it is offensively. If anything, I think he's like the bizarro defender version of himself offensively. What he can do as a scorer, I think he will find ways to fit in and contribute right away. Our friends at FanDuel, last I looked, had him at 10-1 for Rookie of the Year. And with the exception of a couple other guys off the top of my head, I can't remember, but there was nobody rated higher than him in terms of where, towards the top that was on a team with actual stakes who, may actually be playing for something. So I if nothing else, I've been sensing some buzz that folks who pay attention to the league anticipate him having a role.
He's going to have a role. I've got no question that he's going to play. But I think my worry is the defense is a real problem. I also worry that if JJ Redick thinks that Dalton Knecht can do the things that JJ Redick himself did as a player, that's not the player that Knecht is. He's not this sprinting around screens long all the way, just 3-point bomber, that level. He's not that guy. He's a scorer who can shoot. He's not a shooter who shoots and shoots and shoots and shoots. That's not exactly who he is. But you're right. There is a role here for him on this team. I think that again, that part of I think I would have liked him more if he was like 6'8" instead of like 6'5" and 3/4 or whatever he is, because that like so profiles more to a 3.
I think Dalton Knecht would prefer to be 6'8" too, Josh. I mean, that is like, I don't think anyone's arguing.
No, that is true, but that puts him more down towards he plays more the 3 and the 2 versus the 3 and the 4, which is where we talk about some of these positional things, and maybe defense isn't as important as playing that position. But he is. We're talking a lot about him because again, no one joined this team, and we're going to talk about that part in just a second. We'll get there. But today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Self-care is important for not only yourself, but everyone around you. If you don't take that time to look after yourself, well, you can't show up and be your best self for others, whatever that self-care is. Maybe it is going to the gym, maybe it is catching up with friends, but therapy can also be a form of self-care. And when you've got your schedule jam-packed with all these other responsibilities, maybe those responsibilities take preference over things like signing free agents. Who knows? But as someone who is grounded in their life, you need to get yourself and the priorities straight. And that's where BetterHelp can come in. So if you've been thinking of starting therapy, well, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to suit your schedule. So you can go in there, you fill out the questionnaire, it matches you up with a therapist. You see how you guys go. And if that doesn't work out and there's no connection, well, BetterHelp allows you to change to another therapist free of charge. So don't skip therapy day. Get involved in it with BetterHelp. Go to betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. You touched on it already, Andy, about the players who left, because it's not an important or a big list necessarily. Either Taurean Prince, Spencer Dinwiddie, Skylar Mays, and Harry Giles, 2 players who were on this team somehow last season. If Darvin Ham was still on this team, he'd be mightily disappointed that Taurean Prince was gone, but at least they get to reconnect in Milwaukee. So that part of the situation is satisfied. I don't think we need to talk too much about Prince moving on and how he was the bane of a lot of Lakers fans' existence last season. We've already talked about the guys that could potentially come in here and replace him or replace his role. So let's just go to the projected starters that you have for this squad. I actually have a slightly different group, but you are Mr. Lakers, so you're going to be you can tell me why I'm wrong, and I'm sure you'll say this is a distinct possibility. I know that DAngelo Russell was going to start, and I don't think Darvin Ham's going to teleport his mind values into JJ Redick and say, well, maybe we should have Austin Reeves and DAngelo Russell coming off the bench. It's going to be those two. It's going to be LeBron. It's going to be Anthony Davis, and you've got Jared Vanderbilt there, who, of course, was just banged up all of last season. I actually think they might go with Rui Hachimura, but I don't know. I also don't really think Rui Hachimura is a very good fit with that team, or he's a particularly good player, but I don't know. I hope it's Jared Vanderbilt. So what makes you lean that way?
Some of this is, I think, me trying to wish cast what I want.
That's what I was trying to avoid doing.
Well, no, I mean, look, I think there's a real possibility it could be Rui, and I think we're going to end up talking more about Rui over the course of the show. But when Rui got inserted into the starting lineup last year, that included D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron, Anthony Davis, that's when the Lakers really took off last year.
Yep.
And he played very well with that group. There were certain things that they were looking for from Rui to continue from the first half season he played with the Lakers, namely outside shooting, and he absolutely did that. He shot over 40% from 3, not huge volume, but not tiny volume either. So he definitely works with that group in terms of functionality. But I think the problem with Rui is, he just sort of quintuples down on the offense that they already have a lot of in D'Lo, Reeves, LeBron, AD. And in the meantime, the shortcomings defensively that exist with a D'Lo Reeves backcourt and the pacing that LeBron understandably needs to put himself through for the first 50-ish games as he's in his 22nd season, pushing 40. It's not a matter of LeBron dogging it. It's a matter of LeBron preserving himself. But these things do have a trickle-down effect, and they have to be accounted for. I think Jared Vanderbilt offers them much more defensive optionality. He's the best perimeter defender on this team by a long shot. There's not even a close second, I guess, unless you want to count Anthony Davis, because he can do anything defensively. He gives them a lot of the rebounding that they're missing. He gives them an edge and a physicality. And, last year, if you were to do an oral history of last season or an autopsy, I think Jared Vanderbilt's absence last year for most of the season, including the season opener, he got hurt during training camp. I think it created a trickle-down effect that really hurt a lot of what went on last year. Combine that with Rui having a bad training camp and Taurean Prince honestly killing it during training camp. It led to Taurean getting that starting nod at small forward. And it was justifiable by Darvin, but Darvin leaned on him too much, played him way too many minutes. Like 30-ish minutes is just too much for Taurean Prince over the course of his career. And it led to, I think, sort of a cavalcade of bad decisions from Darvin that I think would have been, if nothing else, more avoidable had Vando been there from the beginning of the season. I think Vanderbilt helps them fill more of what is missing, even with some of the offensive concerns that accompany Vando. He does not have an outside shot. He is not nearly as good of a finisher as he ought to be given his athleticism. He's a decent passer, but he's not somebody that you're going to have run the offense. And he really can't create offense for himself. So sometimes teams end up not guarding him at all. I think that can be used against them. And we saw that some last year because he can be a very good cutter. He pays, I think, close attention to when he's being ignored. He can time his motion well, where guys like D'Lo, LeBron, Austin Reeves, even Anthony Davis, Gabe Vincent, if he ends up healthy this year, where they can find him and capitalize on that. But mostly just the defense that was lacking a lot last year, I think really not having Vanderbilt there was a real problem for this team. I would personally lean towards starting Vanderbilt and trying to make the team more balanced and more complete, as opposed to, again, with RUHI, who does fit, quintupling down on what's already a strength. I think more people expect that it's going to be RUHI starting ultimately, but again, maybe this is me channeling my inner LeVar Ball and, speaking it into existence.
I'm with you in the sense that I think that it should be Vanderbilt. Right? I agree completely with the RUHI thing. RUHI did shoot better last season, but I still don't trust him as a reliable three-point shooter. He's low volume. He's more comfortable getting into the mid-range. And I don't know he doesn't pass. He doesn't defend very well. He doesn't make sense with those other guys around him, because you're never going to prioritize giving the ball to RUHI Hachimura versus the other four players.
I think he gets to actually be a better version of himself, and you get to utilize him the most coming off the bench, especially against, second unit forwards. Most of them, they're not going to be able to guard him. Yeah. Or, he's very good at punishing smaller defenders and switches. He really does that stuff very well. He is not the most versatile player in the world, like you mentioned, but he is a pretty talented scorer. And I think there can be more opportunities for him in that second unit. I think you just get the most bang for your buck with RUHI playing him 25 to 30 minutes off the bench.
Let's talk about the projected bench group now. You're going with Gabe Vincent, Max Christie, Dalton Knecht, RUHI Hachimura, and Christian Wood. Now, we've talked about Knecht. We had a little discussion on RUHI there. We'll talk more later. I do want to talk about Christian Wood just for 5 seconds, but have Lakers fans realized that he's not good and he shouldn't be starting next to Anthony Davis, and he's not the savior that's bringing them somewhere? Because that always happens. Christian Wood goes through your team. They go, man, look at this, 20 and 10. He blocks shots, he shoots, but he doesn't. He can do stuff on really bad teams, but when good teams need him, it doesn't work. Have people come to that realization now?
Yeah, he was not. Last season was difficult for him. He had a pocket of good games, and
he did.
There was a period where he and LeBron and AD were playing very well together over 5-7 minute stretches. They closed some games together, and it worked very well. There were, to be fair to Christian Wood, who does not have a reputation as a defender at all, and I think with good reason, there were some possessions where he ended up matched up against Kevin Durant and defended him very, very well. He is a very good defensive rebounder. I would argue in some respects he's better at that than he is scoring. And the team missed that defensive rebounding when he was hurt. It was one of the weaknesses on this team. The problem, I think, with Wood, both broadly and specifically for this team, is he needs a fair amount of volume just to, even if you think his scoring is empty calories, you got to give him the ball enough to get those calories. And on a team like this, especially if he's playing off the bench, there's only going to be so many chances to feed him. And in a more narrowly tailored role, I don't know if if you really even get him the opportunity to be whatever you consider the best version of himself, even if you don't consider that best version particularly impressive, there's a ceiling to his utility on this team. And in a lot of ways, I think you're right. His best function as an NBA player may be giving you empty calories on a bad team.
To Christian Wood's credit, which is not something that people would say that I do that often, he did sort of change his game. His usage dropped way down. And yeah, he didn't shoot well at all, but he's a better shooter than a 30% 3-point shooter that he was last year. He's better than that. So I actually think there is, if he does keep that lower volume and understanding with his sort of position in the hierarchy, that it can work and he can shoot better. And the other thing that is important is that there's a level of humbling that goes on. Like, he picked up an option on a minimum contract because he was told that, hey, bro, no one wants you. Like, no one is going to be paying you any more than this. So what are you going to do? Like, so there is a level to that makes someone maybe go, hey, maybe it is me that's been the problem. Maybe I do need to fix some things, and maybe that's what's happened. Who knows? But this role as a backup works.
To be fair to Christian Wood, and I think to be accurate to Christian Wood, I think he did everything that was asked of him last year. Whatever disappointments there were from last season, and some of that is injury, and that's beyond his control. Attitude was not a problem, and I stress this just because attitude has been something that has dogged Christian Wood fairly, unfairly, a little bit of both his entire career. I did not hear of anything or see of anything that made me feel like he was not accepting of his role, not trying to do better defensively, not trying to be more of a role player. I did not get a sense that Christian Wood was doing the thing a lot of people think that he does, which is just play for Christian Wood, or like that he was trying to play for a bigger contract and looking for his. I did not get that sense at all. I just don't know if the fit is all that clean for really what he's done to establish himself in the NBA.
I agree with all that. And we've got more to talk about, including some of those injuries that you referenced earlier. First of all, today's episode, though, is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time's got something new. We didn't know about this, but it's just come out now. Game Time Picks is what it's called. It's a new feature that makes getting the tickets for your favorite live events easier. It filters out the fluff, so it only shows you the incredible deals on the great seats, so you don't have to waste your time going through the thousands of different ticket options that are there. It goes through and it shows you, these are the good ones. How about these are the ones? These are the ones that you want to look at versus like, well, this is this seat and this one's overpriced. They move all that stuff out of the way. So Game Time Picks gives you those better options. They've also got, what is this? They've got a 50% off deal coming for Labor Day for Diamondbacks Dodgers. There you go. As we're talking about the Lakers here, 50% off Labor Day off for Diamondbacks Dodgers. That's very specific, but it is something that Game Time does have. Not only do they have Game Time Picks, they've got the all-in pricing, which you can toggle on in the app. They've got the zone deals. They've got the flash deals, all that sort of stuff for whatever it is, sporting events, comedy, theater, musicals, all that sort of stuff is available over on Game Time. So take that guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. Andy, last season, one of the big moves the Lakers made in the offseason was signing Gabe Vincent. He was coming off a strong postseason performance from Miami, and I posited it out there. I said, I think there's going to be moments where Gabe Vincent is actually more important to this team than what DAngelo Russell brings. Of course, he played about 2 minutes for the entire season, and we just never saw anything for him. Like, and the numbers were horrific. But he didn't play average 3 points a game. Like, he just didn't play. Nothing worked. Where are we at with his knee at the moment? Like that, because it was reminiscent of the Kendrick Nunn signing, or I don't know. This feels like there's been a million of these guys who come into the Lakers and don't ever really suit up. Where are we at with Gabe Vincent?
I mean, I'll tell you right now, if you want to get the Laker fan base to riot, sign another guard from the Heat. At this point, Laker fans do not ever want to sign one of their guys, trade for one of their guys. There are some who feel like this is Pat Riley holding a grudge and still screwing with the Lakers, whatever. But Just the sight of a guard who formerly wore a Heat uniform scares the bejesus out of Laker fans. As far as where Gabe is at right now, I mean, you don't get a ton of updates from the team over the summer, but I did see an interview where Gabe Vincent was talking from a camp that he was running in Stockton, and he said that he felt good and that, what he was dealing with last year, he made it sound like it was more serious. I mean, more nagging than truly serious, even though it required surgery, that it was more wear and tear. Again, the way he described it, than something that he seemed worried about accompanying, or being a part of his career moving forward. Look, Gabe Vincent was their mid-level exception signing last year. He was expected to play a prominent role off the bench, to be definitely a defensive force. And if you believe in Gabe Vincent as a defender, the absence of him and Vando basically all of last year was a big problem for the Lakers in terms of trying to build any type of defensive integrity. He is not, a playmaker at the level, certainly not of LeBron or DAngelo Russell. And I don't know if I'd put him even at the level of Austin Reeves, but he is somebody that can help you run an offense. He is, somebody that we've seen at his best can, hit that open three, provide some spacing. He's someone that at the very least you're not going to be ignoring. And also, too, the way he plays this upcoming season, assuming he is healthy and available and thriving, that can be the key to how easily the Lakers can try to move on from DAngelo Russell. It's no secret that they would like to trade him if possible, but the problem is DAngelo Russell is at worst the fourth best player on this team. I would argue last year he was their third best.
Yep.
And his, he had quite possibly a career year last year. And that type of production, even acknowledging the issues DAngelo has had in the playoffs, and those are real, you still got to get to the playoffs. You still got to get the best seed possible. And that stuff in the regular season matters. And especially for a team that has LeBron and AD coming off Team USA and the concerns that are always there for LeBron anyway, D'Lo's counting stats matter. Somebody has to provide that production. I don't think Gabe can produce at that level, but Gabe playing at a high level can potentially alleviate some of the concern that they would have about moving D'Lo. Or I don't think Gabe Vincent could ever make D'Lo expendable purely, but it could make it easier to move him if he's able to thrive.
So the one thing they did do over the offseason was get a new head coach. They moved on from Darvin Ham, who had taken them to the playoffs and through to the Western Conference Finals in year one. And after a convoluted process of, no, he's definitely not our guy, and we haven't even talked to JJ Redick, even though people are confirming that it's a done deal. It's JJ Redick. He is their new coach. And I've put up something to say, what's the impact of the new coach? But Andy, who knows? We don't know what JJ Redick is going to do as a coach. We've never seen him coach, and he can come out and tell us about his principles of motion or whatever he's going to do. I can come out and tell you I'm the best looking bloke in the world. Until it's proven.
You're a very good looking guy, though, Josh. I'm just going to say it right now.
I appreciate your vote of confidence on that. But, there's a lot of other people who still need to chime in on that one, Andy. But, we don't know.
I'm just saying it translates overseas, Josh. I'm just saying it's not just in Australia. Your overseas appeal is very strong.
The conversion rate is holding steady, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
But we don't know. We don't know with JJ. We don't know. We've heard him speak. We hear him on TV. We hear him on podcasts. We hear him. We know his relationship with LeBron and players and all that sort of stuff. So we can't talk about the on-court stuff necessarily, but in terms of part of the reason Darvin Ham was brought in was a relational sort of thing. Is that the added benefit here with JJ? Is that the impact you think he has? Because it was obviously locker room chemistry issues between coach and players last season.
Yeah, there's no question that became a problem. It became openly obvious. It wasn't even just that Darvin was making decisions that players clearly did not agree with. It's that they didn't even understand why he was making some of these decisions. It was just very clear that a lot of times there was just what the hell, man? We really don't get why you're doing it this way. And there were a lot of decisions Darvin made that I think taken in a vacuum were totally justifiable and you could understand them. And there were certain ones that injury forced his hand. But when you look at a lot of stuff in totality and the way certain decisions would be the complete 180 from what he had just done, it often felt like a coach just throwing crap at the wall and hoping something would stick. He also was seemingly avoiding trying to just use the rotation and the core group of players that got them to the Western Conference Finals in the first place, which is what I think was really the most confusing thing. Like, I actually, before a game, I asked Darvin, like, just point blank, is there something that you saw during, say, the 2023 playoff run that made you feel like this group of D'Lo, Reeves, Vando, because at the time he was healthy when I asked this, LeBron, AD, and RUHI, like that core six group of guys that were the core players that helped get to this Western Conference Finals. Like, is there something that you saw in the playoffs that made you feel like over time with scouting, this would be more vulnerable than we might have thought, like in a small sample size? Like, basically trying to open up the door for an explanation. And the response was basically just, no, like, just hasn't really presented itself. I'm like, pretty sure it has. With Redick, it's a weird thing, Josh, because he's obviously a really smart guy. Yep. He is obviously very articulate. He's very good at explaining himself. He is a basketball psychopath. He's a junkie for this stuff. He's got a charisma that I think will, at least at the outset, keep guys' attention. He's got that relationship with LeBron, the perception, accurate, not accurate, likely somewhere in between, that this is LeBron's guy. It's also, too, if we're being honest, JJ Redick he was the starriest guy that the Lakers could have hired. In a lot of ways, this is in the tradition of the Lakers doing the star effer move. Mm-hmm. But in a lot of ways, it's a vibes hire, because you don't know exactly what this is going to look like. You have no track record or blueprint or anything that you can fall back on to give you any type of clues. It really is, in a lot of ways, about vibes. And I can understand the appeal of JJ Redick. Full disclosure, he is not who I would have hired. I would have likely hired either Micah Nori or David Adelman, and just given sort of that sweet spot of new voice, younger guy that can hopefully grow with the organization, but has some more experience. In the case of both Adelman and Nori, they've worked with big men, which I think is very important for a team that Anthony Davis is now the best player. But, Redick, he makes sense if you understand how the Lakers operate. And again, I don't think he's necessarily a bad hire, but it's one that really has to work. Like, you can't. The Lakers have had, I believe it's 7 coaches since Phil Jackson. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Since Phil Jackson, after the 2011 season, they've gone Mike Brown, Mike D'Antoni, Byron Scott, Luke Walton, Frank Vogel, who won a championship, Darvin Ham, and now the 7th would be JJ Redick. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's one of the highest turnover rates in the league. And this organization, especially since the death of Dr. Buss, it's felt very much like they don't know what they want in a coach, in part because I've often sensed they don't think coach is all that important, and that the coach is pretty disposable. Mm-hmm. And that really stars are what win the day. It's also become very clear that they are more than willing to let their coach be the fall guy when things aren't working. But it's got to work. Like, they really can't keep this turnstile spinning. So there's obviously going to be a lot of scrutiny of JJ Redick.
Rightfully so, but we will see. It was a weird situation. There's always a weird situation around the Lakers. This was another one. But now we got to talk about a player to watch. And this is a player who signed a contract extension. He was a restricted free agent. He's a guy that I've been really wanting to play more, and Laker fans were calling for this a lot last season as well, and that's Max Christie, who is a guy that I think is a rookie. I think he randomly started a couple of games early on.
Yeah, he did.
And then sort of disappeared out of the rotation. He is quite a good defensive guard. And part of, like, when we talked earlier on about Dalton Knecht, I think that Max Christie gets first crack at some of those, or a bigger crack at some of those minutes that I think some people have just penciled in that Dalton's going to get. His numbers aren't going to blow you away because he just barely played 14 minutes a night, but he's a pretty good defender. He's not a bad shooter. Where do we think this goes? Because the Lakers have had a very good track record of these undrafted second-round players blossoming. Like how I really like him. I think he can turn into a, let's say, Austin Reeves level player, because that's the guy in the Lakers who was undrafted, who's now a starter. I think Max can do that. What sort of leeway do you think he's going to be given to do that?
Well, I mean, the everyday or some Locked On Lakers know I spent a lot of last season complaining that Max Christie wasn't playing, that I couldn't understand what Darvin's resistance was, and I heard whispers that the front office also didn't quite understand what Darvin's resistance was. But the 4-year, $32 million contract that they gave Christie speaks to both the organization's confidence in him and also the fact that he's going to play. Like you said, I think he's got the makings of a very good 3-and-D player. For fantasy purposes, he's not somebody that I would draft, or at least maybe not until your last round. I doubt his numbers are going to pop off the charts. But if you're playing just actual basketball, like real IRL, and looking to win games, I think Christie's going to play a very important role. He is somebody that can, I think, guard up and down from his position. He's very athletic. He's been in low volume, limited opportunities, but pretty consistently a good outside shooter. He is extremely mature for his age. He either just turned 21 or just turned 22. I don't remember, but off the top of my head. But if you hear him talk, you would think he was either 31 or 32. Like, he's always just been very mature for his age. He's always been a hard worker. He's especially, I think, surrounded by players like LeBron, like AD, like Reeves, D'Lo, good NBA players, somebody that can, I think, stay in his lane and stay in that lane really successfully. He is somebody that I could picture closing games a lot. And I am very bullish on Christie, especially knowing that the organization is committed to him. And it feels very much like he is going to be given an opportunity and it will be his to lose, as opposed to seemingly his to earn without really being given a sincere chance to earn it in the first place.
Completely unrelated, Cam Reddish does remain on this roster. Now, Max Christie turns 20. He turns 20.
See what you did there.
He turns 22 in February. So he's 21 and a half. He is 2 full years younger than Dalton Knecht. He is 6 months young. He's 6 months younger than Brandon Miller. Like, he's ridiculously young. Like, this is like,
he's not that much older than Bronny.
He's like a year and a half. He's 18 months older than Bronny, I think. I think that's about right. Like, let me have a look at that, because that is, it's the age thing. Just once someone gets into the league, like, this stuff sort of fades out of our brain. But he's like, I said 18 months. He's 20 months older than Bronny, which we're not even going to talk that much about Bronny here, because I don't think we really need to. But that's okay. No, he's just not going to play that much. Let's talk about. Well, we've talked about this guy enough. I just want to just cover off all bases of things that we said we were going to talk about, and that's the make or break guy, and that is RUHI Hachimura for you. We've spoken a lot about RUHI, what he brings and what he doesn't bring. When we talk make or break for RUHI, is it like you just think the team, because his name comes up, he's got this contract, it's like, hey, we'll just package RUHI and D'Lo and get this guy. Let's put it this way, what are the odds you have of RUHI Hachimura being on this roster on February the 20th?
I think they're better than 50-50. I think all things being equal, the Lakers like RUHI and they don't want to move him. RUHI clearly loves being a Laker, loves being here. And I know last offseason he worked a lot with both Phil Handy and LeBron, which made his bad preseason, both surprising and disappointing. And then I believe he may have gotten hurt a little bit too during training camp. And last year he was hurt a lot. He had a broken nose. He, I think, had a hamstring tweak. Like, he was in and out of the lineup a lot over the first month or so of last year, which took him out of rhythm. But then he was having a really good season until the first round series against Denver, in which case RUHI was awful. Like, he was frankly shockingly awful. And it was surprising because the previous year against Denver, RUHI actually played very well. And I thought his playoffs in 2023 as a whole were very good. Denver is a really difficult matchup for him, particularly in terms of who he guards. There are no really good options. Aaron Gordon is very, very athletic. He's even more physical than RUHI. Jokic is obviously Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. requires off-ball tracking that is just not RUHI's strong suit. But I think it's make or break for RUHI in a lot of ways, just reputationally, like in terms of him showing how complete of a player he can become, like what could be left for him in terms of untapped potential, or if this is just kind of who RUHI is, which is a good scorer, probably best suited to play off the bench, very athletic, can abuse mismatches when he has the ball, does certain things off ball well. I think actually sneakily RUHI is one of the best guys on the team when it comes to cutting and relocating. He finds open space very well, which again is good on a team that has these type of passers, but he does not rebound nearly as well as he should for both his size and athleticism. You mentioned it before. RUHI, forget not being a passer, like guys on the team make jokes like in a game where he gets 3 assists. They're like, RUHI was channeling his inner magic in this game. And, defensively, he does certain things okay when he's left to just body the guy in front of him because he is athletic. He's very strong. But his defensive instincts are not great, particularly when it comes to anything off ball, those type of responsibilities. So can RUHI have a growth year? I think that's really the make or break for him. Again, it's really just he's entering his prime. Is there more for him to tap into, or is this more or less who RUHI is? And I guess I want to take that a little bit further. If this is more or less who he is, that could theoretically make him a bit more expendable if the Lakers are looking to make a deal and have to package a salary in the ballpark of RUHI's.
I think you're a little bit harsh on RUHI. He's had 5 games as a member of the Lakers where he's had 4 assists. So, got to give him his due when we're there. The major storyline for me, Brian, for this season, as it is literally every single year, and the answer is I'm just going to default it to no. It's like, is LeBron ever going to decline? Because I don't think so. I mean, he has, but he also hasn't. Like, he takes some plays off. His intensity's not always there, but it's the same thing with him. And we just saw it in the Olympics. He did it again, and health is the concern always going to be moving forward. But like that, if we ever get a decline from LeBron, then obviously this team is cooked. And I'm very clearly bad at this because we haven't spoken about LeBron, Anthony Davis, or Bronny at all, who are the best or the best 2 players and the one who gains the most traction. Because I don't know what we need to do because like LeBron just does it again, and he's going to do it again if he's on the court.
I mean, what he's doing right now, there is no template for it. Like, there's never been anything like this. You look at guys who played this many seasons or, into this type of age. Somebody like Kareem at 40 was still a productive, useful player, but he didn't have nearly the same level of responsibilities as LeBron. He didn't spend nearly as much time on the ball. He wasn't putting up these type of numbers. It really is a one-of-one situation, Josh. Like, it's more complicated, I think, at times in terms of building around LeBron and AD. Like, they still play extremely well off each other. Like, taken in a vacuum, the two of them complement each other, especially offensively, extremely well. But the plays that LeBron takes off defensively, or the pacing of himself, that again is necessary, you still have to account for that. And I think that is trickier than sometimes people realize, because they just very understandably get flabbergasted that LeBron is still able to do this. And it is indeed amazing, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing complicated about maintaining it or trying to work around it. Anthony Davis, it should be noted, last year was exceptional. He was exceptional on both sides of the ball. Brian and I were talking about this on a recent Locked On Lakers. It would be a shame if Anthony Davis never wins Defensive Player of the Year at any point in his career. And, the Rudy Gobert mockery and ire often writes itself, but you saw it once again, in the Olympic run for France. Rudy Gobert was far less impactful for France than Anthony Davis was for Team USA. The type of versatility and the asks that were often there for Anthony Davis. Like I've made this point a lot over last season and in the offseason, and I maintain it. I don't think there was a single player in the NBA, Josh, who played at a higher level on both sides of the ball on a team with actual pressure and aspirations than Anthony Davis. Like I don't think anybody in the league did more on both sides of the ball on a team that actually mattered. You look at Giannis. Giannis had defensive help with Brook Lopez behind him, and he had Damian Lillard as one of his scorers. And Chris Middleton, when available, is better than any third player on the Lakers. Joel Embiid had Tyrese Maxey there. Go down the list of guys who are considered two-way players. I don't think anybody had the type of lift that AD had, playing that type of defense while scoring almost 25 a game. It's pretty amazing what he did.
Part of the reason that I'm not really focusing on AD or even that really LeBron is because they were great. I don't really see, because this team changed nothing. Like they're just going to sort of do the same thing, I'm guessing. Like I don't really see what adjusts or what changes, or it's just because it has to be the same because the team is the same. We'll see if Redick changed anything, but I think that's really the case.
I think better decisions from the coach. You could argue that some of Darvin's decisions cost the Lakers a handful of wins. Let's say they make better decisions and the Lakers win 50 games, 51 games. Even if they still lose against Denver, there's something different about, well, first of all, if they win 50 games, they don't play Denver in the first round. But regardless, there is something psychologically different about talking about a 50-win team versus one that wins 47 games. Maybe it shouldn't be that different, particularly when you take into account how difficult the West was. But, a 50-win team doesn't sound like a team with many true problems in a way that you might feel, activated to pick apart a 47-win team. But the Lakers are in a weird space where I don't think they are front runners right now. And, they need to show me something or make a move before I consider them one of the true contenders in the league. But they're not a bad team either.
No.
Like winning 47 games in last year's West, with especially some of the absences that they had and the injuries, like that is not nothing. And I know we're conditioned to just think about you either win a championship or what did it all mean, but this is a good team. It just remains to be seen if they can be a great team, much less great enough.
That brings us to the burning question that I have for this season. There are plenty of them, obviously, and we've covered a few of those, but I think that the eternal situation with DAngelo Russell is this, what is it? Is it going to be the year where the Lakers fans hate him? Is it going to be one where they love him? Because he was gone. Like, he was traded, and then you can blame Rob Pelinka for being caught up in the moment of him having a 15-game stretch that rivaled anybody in the NBA. Because, again, he was benched, and he struggled for big periods of time, came back, went crazy right before the deadline. They went, no, actually, maybe we'll keep him here. And
they did. I mean, look, they tried to move him. They could not find a third team for him. I mean, they legitimately were. I don't think they necessarily got seduced by D'Lo as much as they could not find a partner, and they weren't willing to sub in Austin Reeves instead.
Yep. Look, everything that I heard, and I'm sure you heard this, Andy, as well. You don't have to say what you heard or anything like that, but he was basically out the door when we were heading into the start of January, I think it was, and there was just like 10% chance that he was sticking on this team, and then so many different things sort of change, and that's what happens in the NBA. A lot of things move around. Now he opts into this contract. His name is going to be floated around every 5 seconds because, again, the Lakers have made zero moves. So people think, well, there's no free agents. It's going to have to be a trade, and it's going to have to be D'Lo that's involved in this. And you're right. He had a great season. Again, shaky early on. But this is also a guy that we know that he does get impacted by stuff. I'm going to say he's an emotional guy because people take that as a negative thing, but stuff happens and he feels it and he hears it and he listens to it, and it brings out the good, but it can also bring out the bad. And at the start of last season, he copped it, and then he got red hot, and now it's going to be that stuff happening again, I'm guessing. So, we talked about RUHI being on this team. Like, where are you with DAngelo staying on this team?
I mean, I think all things being equal, the Lakers would like to move DAngelo, but what makes it complicated beyond the market being just cool for him, he's too good to just move for the sake of moving him. Like, the West is too difficult, and you need talent, you need production, and D'Lo is, like I said, I thought he was the third best player on the Lakers last year. He averaged, off the top of my head, around 18 and 7, shooting 41%, I believe, from behind the arc, like at very, very high volume. He went on some heaters that won them games. Like, I'll tell you right now, last year, they don't make the playoffs without DAngelo Russell, in part because they ended up getting into a hole. Some of that was injuries, some of that was Darvin's decisions, some of that was fatigue. I think especially felt like by LeBron after they really went hard to win the IST. But regardless, they needed DAngelo Russell to just get themselves into the playoffs, even down to the wire, because the play-in game they had against the Pelicans, D'Lo was the best Laker. Like, LeBron and AD were fine, but not great in that game. Zion was the best player in that game until he got hurt, but D'Lo was the best Laker. And D'Lo was ultimately the reason that the Lakers won that game. And that's basically in a microcosm the quandary that the Lakers are in with DAngelo Russell, which is they would like to move off him, but he's too talented to just move. They need his production. They need to make sure that they are getting what they had in him at either at a different position or a player that they are more comfortable possibly re-signing or having a longer term contract with. Like, whatever it is they're looking for, they can't just move DAngelo Russell for the sake of moving him or for the sake of looking like they made a move. Like, Lakers made a splash. Rob Pelinka's not sitting on his hands. Everybody get off Rob's ass, Laker fans. Like, you can't just do that. Like, and that's what makes moving him complicated, combined with the fact that, again, he's tricky to move because a lot of the contending teams don't need him. Yeah. And for the time being, tanking teams, you don't want him because he's too good. He could win you a couple games, and he's also in a contract year. So, and this, he's in his prime. This could be his last shot at a reasonably lucrative deal. D'Lo's not going to be content to just take a reduced role or, go along with whatever team's Cooper Flag sweepstakes. Like, he's got something to play for. So unless there's a team really that either is very short on playmaking as they try to get themselves in the postseason or could use like a high scoring 6-man, the places where you actually move D'Lo are hard to land on. You hear Brooklyn a lot, and I think that could be a possibility, but
they don't want to win games, though. Why do they want to win anything?
I don't know. Maybe if you sub out enough stuff in the trade, it ends up just a neutral wash, and they get a pick or two attached. Depending on who leaves Brooklyn. But they've explored, for example, Jeremy Grant. It's become clear for reasons that are obvious. Portland doesn't want DAngelo Russell. Last year, the talks that reportedly the Lakers were having with Atlanta for DeJounte Murray, the Hawks did not want D'Lo. They wanted Austin Reeves. The Lakers didn't want to move Reeves. They couldn't find a third team for D'Lo. He ends up staying with the Lakers, and DeJounte Murray eventually ends up in New Orleans. So I think, again, all things being equal, I think the Lakers would like to move D'Lo, but moving him is not going to be easy for a variety of reasons.
Let's get into your bold prediction. I've kept you way too long here, Andy. So we'll fly through the end of this. But your bold prediction was that Dalton Knecht is going to make first team all rookie. We've talked a lot about Knecht already. Again, this rookie class is not super strong, so there is a distinct possibility of this. And Knecht might be playing a bench role less than 20 minutes a game, but he could still make that because I don't know how many starters are going to be in this batch of rookies, and we'll see. And if they do,
a lot of national TV games, Josh. He's going to be seen a lot.
And he obviously, going by this is a top 5, top 10 player, the steal of the draft type scenario, that people have that reputation for him already, and he's going to get a lot of focus. And I, as much as I don't love Knecht as a prospect, and I'm really clear on this, I don't think that him being a first team all rookie thing is anything crazy at all. Again, given the players that are, that are in contention for that award as well, it is going to be intriguing to see how he gets used and how he plays. Now, in terms of predicting the record, you have given us a 46-36 record for the Lakers, which is about the same as where they were last year, Andy, because, again, they didn't change much apart from the coach. And even if they get better because of a new coach, you do have to contend with other teams maybe getting more better. And that, if the other teams get more better, which is, again, not a real phrase, but if you get more better than them, then it's harder to continue to improve what you do. So I think 46-36 is pretty reasonable. I haven't done my numbers on that yet. Last thing, Andy, this is probably the easiest quiz question that anyone's ever going to get from a general quiz perspective, but also from the perspective of every team that I'm doing here. We head into 24-25 season, so all I'm asking the host is, who's the most memorable player in franchise history for you that was worn either number 24 or number 25? And there could not be a team where the answer is just standing out. So look, apart from... Again, I don't want to make it too easy for you. So apart from Mitch Kupchak, is there anyone who wore 24 or 25 that immediately comes to mind for you?
I mean, okay, so by your rules, I have to move off Mitch Kupchak. I don't have a choice. Can't
choose Mitch Kupchak. We know that he's the number one person who he actually wore number 25 that you would have gone to. So, it'd be interesting. Both these numbers are retired. Both these numbers are retired in Lakers history.
Okay, if I am forced to move off Mitch Kupchak per your ridiculous rules, Josh, I guess I'll take Kobe at 24.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. It's probably the one. I think a few people would have gone that way. Others may have gone with Jim Jackson or even a.
Honestly, you sprung this on me. You really didn't give me a lot of time to prepare. So yeah, I'll go Kobe. Whatever. I'm sure I'll look back on this and realize it was pretty obvious somebody else was the more memorable 24 or 25.
Do you know who they've retired 25 for? And it's not Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah, it's Gail Goodrich.
It is. They retired it for Gail Goodrich, but there's a bunch of guys obviously who wore 24 before Kobe did. Even some like Ron Boone, Kermit Washington, Lloyd.
They're about to retire Michael Cooper's number, man. It's crazy. For listeners and viewers who don't know this, the Lakers have a standard for retiring jerseys. You have to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, they don't do the equivalent of like a Ring of Honor type thing. Which is why beloved guys like Robert Horry or Derek Fisher, Byron Scott, like they don't have a prayer of ever getting their jersey retired because they're not Hall of Famers, and you have to be a Hall of Famer for the Lakers. With that standard, they still have an insane amount of retired jerseys. Like, it's crazy how much success this organization has had. Like, they just retired Pals not too long ago. They're about to retire Coops. They just within the last year or two, retired Jamal Wilkes's. Like, it's just crazy that even with this really, really high standards, they are not running out of guys. LeBron, Jeannie's already said, is getting his retired once he eventually retires. And you can assume Anthony Davis will end up there. Like, that's just nuts, man.
There's so many. I'm just going to bring the list up on the screen for everyone to see of all the, you can't see it there, Andy, but the list of the actual retired numbers that Lakers have. I think the Celtics would have more, but that's probably about it. That's a crazy amount of numbers retired there for the Lakers. But what we need to do now, Andy, is we need to retire this show because it's going on forever. And people, maybe, I don't know how much more Lakers there is to talk for a team that made no moves. And we didn't even get into talking about LeBron James Jr., but that's okay because I don't think we need to talk about him. Tell us what you're talking about over at Locked On Lakers and how much Bronny content you've got coming this week.
Bronny content's probably low, although people want their Bronny fix. Go through our archives. We've spent plenty of shows talking about Bronny. I know over the course of this week, though, coming up, we've got Law Murray from The Athletic who covers the Clippers. We're going to talk a little bit about the moves made or not made by both of these teams in LA, how we think the dynamic between these teams could change with the Clippers moving into it. The upcoming season, their new building. Later in the week, we also have coming up, oh my God, I'm blanking on our guest for Friday. I'm absolutely blanking on this now. Who we've got coming up. Oh, Michael Pena from The Ringer has a recent piece that he wrote for the site about how the Lakers have squandered the LeBron era. So we're going to break down exactly what was, I guess, bad luck, what were bad decisions, what were potentially fireable decisions in another world by Rob Pelinka. So that's coming up during the week.
Check all of that out over at Locked On Lakers. Andy, thanks again for coming on and chatting with me about the Lakers.
Anytime, Josh.
And that will do it for today's show. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you are here on YouTube, and thumbs up and follow and like and comment and all of that sort of stuff. We have got more team previews coming this week, some more stuff on points leagues, some usage and minutes projection changes, which is always a popular show that I do. That's coming up this week as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.